One of the things Pastor David used to tell me when he was mentoring me was that the proof is in the pudding. Anyone's dad ever tell him that? I never really understood that. I'm not a big pudding fan, but I think what he means is it's one thing to say something, it's another thing to actually see it. Actions follow your words. It's one thing to say you're a disciple, but the proof is in the pudding. And what's the pudding? The pudding is disciples make other disciples. You're radically committed, you're abiding in the word, you're loving other people, but if you're not doing this fourth thing, then you cannot seriously consider yourself a disciple, because disciples make disciples who make disciples. So if you put it all together, a disciple is following Jesus. Okay, they're radically committed. They're being changed by Jesus. They're abiding in the word. They're loving other people. And they're committed to the mission of Jesus. Disciples make disciples. You think about your life as a disciple of Jesus, that's what it looks like, right? That's the posture. That's kind of the system. Every time you deepen in your maturity as a disciple of Jesus, you're confronted with a choice. Am I going to be committed to Jesus, or am I going to be committed to myself? Am I going to continue in this addiction, or am I going to repent and follow Jesus? Am I going to get engaged or married to this person? Am I going to go down this path, or am I going to commit myself to Jesus and do what it is that would honor him? And you're confronted at every step along the way in your journey as a disciple with the choice, will I be radically committed? You don't become a saint overnight. You may become a Christian, but you're not going to stop cussing, stop drinking, start teaching Sunday school next Sunday, at least not at this church, because that's not how people change. People change gradually, right, over time as they encounter Christ and have a choice. Am I going to put faith in him? Am I going to trust him? Or am I going to continue in my own way? That is discipleship. Then you have abiding in the word. Some of you for the first time are starting to have a daily devotional. You started the 90-day challenge, and for the first time in your life, you're relating with God intimately through the word, and it has changed your life, revolutionized your life. Why? Because that's what happens when disciples abide in the Word. And it's not just reading words on a page, you're actually beginning to experience the presence of God in your daily life, and it has changed everything. Others of you've been disciples a long time, you've been doing that a long time, but it's amped up a little bit. Maybe you went on a retreat, maybe you amped up the intimacy factor, and that is discipleship. The longer you go as a disciple, the deeper you go into that process of abiding in the Word. Loving other people, man, doesn't that not simplify Christian obedience? If you would just simply ask the question, what does love require of me here? You would be so far down the road on honoring the Lord with your life. It's unbelievable. You don't have to know the list of do's and don'ts. You don't have to memorize all of the verses. All you need to do is love other people the way you've been loved by Jesus. Do you know the Apostle Paul said something really radical? Romans chapter 13, verse 10. He said, love fulfills the law. Love does no wrong to a neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfilling of the law. Is that not amazing? Do you know how many things are in the law? Many, many things. One thing you need to remember, love is the fulfillment of the law. He says the same thing in Galatians chapter 5, verse 14. And so we like all that. I can love people. I can abide in the word. I can be radically committed to Christ. But when it comes to this fourth thing, disciples make disciples, it gets pretty convicting, doesn't it? Because if you were going to ask yourself the question, can I point to anybody in my life whom I was personally involved in their becoming a disciple, and those people, having become disciples, are now actively engaged in making other disciples? I tell you, when you ask yourself that question, it's pretty convicting, isn't it? When's the last